When her mother left, my granddaughter in a wheelchair revealed an incredible hidden truth. Leo's heart didn't just ache, it screamed. The emptiness of a home that once resonated with laughter settled like a lead weight in his chest. His own daughter, overcome by the pressures of motherhood, had left him with Emily, the vibrant 10-year-old strapped to a wheelchair who carried the fierce spirit of a lioness. Invoking pity in strangers, the whispers of those who judged Emily's condition left him with a bittersweet sense of dread. How could he shield this precious girl from the weight of unkind words? Losing his daughter felt like a betrayal, yet caring for Emily ignited a stubborn ember within him. "Am I enough?" he asked himself relentlessly. Was he a good enough grandfather? He wasn't sure. Emily's laughter fluttered through the air, caught in the afternoon light. He couldn't ignore that sparkle in her eye as she excitedly talked about an upcoming academic competition, her animated gestures echoing a lifetime of dreams. A part of Leo felt joy, watching her ambitions unfold, but anxiety nagged him relentlessly. The townsfolk would see only a wheelchair, not the brilliance that shone through her ideas. Would they ever recognize Emily for who she truly was? He should know better than to let their judgments get under his skin, yet entrenched in a world thick with tradition, he often faltered. Before they pursued her ambitions, Leo felt the need to suppress his own worries. He was tired of pretending everything was fine. The shadows creeping on his heart, weighed down by regret, and doubt materialized as he gazed at the old schoolhouse where he taught for decades. Each brick held memories of students thriving under his guidance, stratified by layers of unfulfilled potential. Did he fail them, and did he fail Emily too? A moment of clarity ignited when he sat next to her, poring over research papers late into the night. Emily's insights shimmered and sparkled, illuminating the darkness within him. Yet as time passed, the lovingly crafted world he envisioned began to fray. Can we even enter that competition? He pondered, the anxiety threading through his mind like a guilty whisper. And then came the announcement of a local art exhibit, one that overlooked Emily's talents. How painfully wrong to dismiss her gifts. He could feel the internal pressure mounting, as if the town itself were closing in, huddled in its whispered judgments. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Leo, what if we fight for me? Emily suggested, her eyes fierce and determined, igniting a fire within him. But fears clawed at him. What if their stand brought nothing but the ugly face of backlash? What if he lost her too, pushed into obscurity by the town's relentless prejudice? The stakes soared as he mounted the weight of social expectation against the exquisite fire of Emily's spirit. And then, as they plunged into their preparations, Emily revealed something that would forever alter everything, her mother's truth. It was one she carried heavily as they watched the town continue to weave its tapestry of disapproval. In that moment, Leo almost wished he hadn't known. Would they find the strength to navigate treacherous waters, or would the weight of the truth plunge them into deeper depths of isolation? The following days unfolded with a blend of anticipation and anxiety. Emily had taken the revelation of her mother's truth and transformed it into a fuel for her ambition. They spent hours discussing strategies, dissecting the competition requirements, and crafting a presentation that highlighted Emily's unique talents. Each word Emily typed onto her laptop became a lifeline, a bridge to her dreams that thrummed with hope. But with every keystroke, a heavier realization settled over Leo. He was about to step into a battleground, potentially armed with nothing more than love and the strength of Emily's spirit. Initially, doubt gnawed at him with relentless hunger. What did he know about competitions? His years as a teacher seemed distant as he watched Emily navigate her digital landscape with an ease he envied. For the first time in their journey, he felt the stark contrast between their capabilities. She was a visionary, and he was merely a caretaker. This narrative stung because Leo had thought he was meant to guide her. "Leo, I need you to believe in me," Emily said one evening, glancing up from her notes. There was a strength in her expression, one that twisted the knot in his stomach into something new, vulnerability stirred into fierce resolve. "Believe in you?" he echoed, his voice barely steady. "You are so much more than I ever imagined. But I'm scared, Em. What if they see you as just different?" She met his gaze head on. "Then we'll show them who I really am." In that moment, Leo realized it wasn't just about the competition. It was about redefining their identity within a world that sought to pigeonhole them. She was ready to fight, to wrest control over the narrative surrounding her life. And he truly had wanted to shield her. But was it time to shield her in a different way? To help arm her for the world instead of protecting her from it? Gradually, the quiet space within Leo began to shift. He was not merely a caretaker, he was his granddaughter's ally. The thought surprised him, sparking the beginnings of a plan. What if he could present her strengths alongside her story? For far too long, he had hidden behind his fears, silently echoing the doubts that plagued him daily. He felt a glimmer of determination blossom deep inside him. It was time to confront not only the fears of the townsfolk, but also his own. As they developed the presentation, he made a conscious decision to step out of the shadows. He practiced speaking with her in the mirror, rehearsing sentences that would resonate with an audience. Guided by the essence of his belief in Emily, he forced himself to rise in confidence, clearing the cobwebs of his self-doubt. The day of the competition approached faster than he expected, and its imminent arrival thrummed with urgency. Leo felt the enormity of his choices press against him. They would confront the town's prejudices together. They would emerge from this experience defined by resilience rather than societal expectations. But the night before they were scheduled to showcase their work, a familiar voice played in his head, riddled with reluctance. What if they failed? While the excitement crackled in the air like static electricity, his thoughts drifted to Emily's mother, the weight of her presence heavy amidst their preparations. Did that hidden truth possess the power to rip them apart, just as it had once torn apart their family? As Leo sat on the verge of sleep, heavy with anticipation, he turned to the one person whom he needed to confront next, her mother. Would he be able to share the truth with Emily, or would it remain locked within him, a burden that threatened to shatter what they had built? And in that moment, he knew. The battleground had expanded beyond the competition. The fight for Emily's future was just beginning. Would he gather enough courage to face the truth that loomed like a dark cloud, or would they wrestle with shadows? The night was heavy, an oppressive silence filling the room as Leo tossed on his bed, thoughts racing and colliding like storm clouds. The clock ticked relentlessly, each second dragging closer to dawn, and with it, the moment that could redefine Emily's path. He inhaled deeply, gathering resolve as he swung his legs over the side of the bed, the cold wood flooring shocking him into wakefulness. Determined, Leo slipped into a sweater, its soft fabric comforting against the chill of uncertainty. As he padded down the hallway towards the living room, he was confronted by memories of Emily's laughter, vibrant and unyielding, despite the shadows cast by the family secrets. The truth about her mother loomed like a ghost. Its presence whispered warnings about love, abandonment, and identity. Today, he thought, he would decide once and for all whether the truth was a weapon or a shield. In the living room, the morning light filtered through the blinds, scattering warmth across the space. He poured a cup of coffee, the rich aroma enveloping him in a comforting embrace, before glancing at the laptop sitting on the table. The presentation they had tirelessly crafted sparkled with possibility, radiating hope and potential. Yet the shadows lingered, threatening to obscure the brilliance of what they had created. As he sat, the fatigue weighing down his eyelids, Leo felt the intertwining threads of fear and bravery pulling at him. Would revealing Emily's mother's truth enrich her narrative or poison it? Would it help the audience see Emily as more than different, or would it simply bolster their prejudices? He could hear Emily's voice echoing through his mind. Then we'll show them who I really am. But how much of that identity rested on a significant piece of her past that he had navigated around? The echoes of their discussions played like a haunting melody. Emily had daydreamed about the future, her artistic visions spilling into a canvas that could reshape the very fabric of their lives. Her mother's absence had forged this vacancy, yet the truth Tim represented had the potential to fill it, not just for Emily, but for Leo as well. Firming his grip on the mug, Leo made a decision. If he wanted to face the competition and share a vision of his granddaughter that was entirely her own, the missing piece had to be confronted. He had to speak with Emily, not just about the presentation, but about her mother. There was a heaviness that accompanied the knowledge he held, but perhaps it was time for the truth to carry its own weight, to reshape not just their perceptions, but their bond. After a few deep breaths to steady himself, Leo resolved that he'd call Emily down for breakfast, but not before he gathered his own thoughts. This would not be an easy conversation. Would she see this revelation as betrayal or liberation? As he mentally rehearsed his words, the coffee grew cold in the mug, his disregard for it reflecting his internal struggle. When Emily joined him a short while later, her eyes bright with optimism, Leo staggered slightly under the weight of what he had to say. She was ready to conquer the day, armed with creativity and resilience, yet he felt momentarily paralyzed by the gravity of the conversation that awaited them. "Let's talk," he said, his voice almost a whisper. The determination to follow through loomed before him like a lighthouse piercing through fog, guiding him toward uncharted waters. This was their moment of truth, a moment that would challenge the narrative they had built and test their connection in ways they had never anticipated. As they sat across the table, reality pressed in, demanding attention and resolution. Would they emerge stronger from this confrontation? Or would the truth threaten to unravel everything they had fought for thus far? In that charged silence, Leo realized that the moment of confrontation was just the beginning. They were about to delve deeper than they ever had before, ready or not. Emily settled into her chair, her enthusiasm radiating through the air. She reached for a piece of toast, the familiar gesture momentarily easing the tension that wrapped around them like a thick fog. Leo's heart raced, each beat hammering the weight of his decision into place. They shared a quiet breakfast, the clinking of dishes masking the turmoil beneath the surface. "Did you sleep well?" Emily asked, oblivious, her eyes bright and expectant. "Not really. Too much on my mind," he admitted, forcing himself to return her smile, even as the truth loomed between them like a dark shadow. She nodded, diving into her thoughts about the presentation. "I just know they're going to love my ideas." Her voice bubbled with excitement, lightness that made Leo's burden feel even heavier. He managed a nod, but the anticipation in her eyes was almost unbearable. "Emily, there's something we need to discuss," he said, the words heavy on his tongue. Just saying them pulled him back into a spiraling doubt. He could see the moment her excitement faltered, replaced by a flicker of concern. "What is it?" Her tone shifted, the warmth giving way to an undercurrent of anxiety. With his hands grasping the edge of the table, Leo took a deep breath. "It's about your mother." The words left his lips, stumbling into the air like stones thrown into a still pond. Emily's expression hardened, her mouth twitching into a frown. "I thought we agreed not to talk about her." A thin veneer of defiance covered her fear, but Leo could see the tremor beneath it. "I know, but this is important. We can't let it overshadow everything we've worked for," he said, searching for the right approach. "You don't understand," she shot back, her voice rising. "Everything I do is to move past it. I can't let that define me." The tension between them crackled, thick enough to choke on. The fingers tightening around Leo's cup felt almost painful. "And I'm not trying to define you by it, Emily. But the truth, your truth, could change how people see you, how they connect with your story. I don't want their judgment, she flared, the fire in her eyes burning bright. That's why I need to create my own narrative. Then let me help you shape it, he urged, desperation creeping into his tone. What if this could be part of your journey? What if knowing the truth allows you to take control of it instead of running from it? Emily's breathing slowed, a flicker of contemplation passing through her eyes. For a moment, the chaos within her transformed into a fragile stillness. But the weight of the unspoken lingered around them, heavy and foreboding. If I do this, she murmured finally, the resolve hardening in her voice, there's no going back. I could lose everything. Or gain everything, Leo countered gently, desperate to ignite the spark of hope he saw in her. Your art, your vision, it's all part of who you are. What if facing this fear means you can truly show the world who you are? Silence enveloped them once more, the tension thick enough to slice. As she stared into her cup, Leo realized that the conversation had transformed into a crucible, testing their relationship in ways they had never considered. Uncertainty flickered in Emily's gaze. Leo could see the conflict churning inside her, fear fighting against a yearning for authenticity. That moment hung, fragile, in the balance. Was this the breakthrough they needed, or the moment that would drive an insurmountable wedge between them? As she met his eyes, a decision swirled in the air, teetering on the edge. Would they embrace the truth together, or would the darkness drive them apart? Leo's mind raced. The beginnings of a plan formed, but only time would unveil if it would bear fruit. Would this be a test of their bond, or an opportunity for growth? Let's take the plunge, he proposed, a taste of determination igniting within him. Together. In that breathless pause, uncertainty reigned, but hope flickered faintly in the distance, an unknown horizon waiting to be explored. The moment for clarity loomed, but what other truths might emerge as they ventured down this path? What if the very foundations of their relationship bent and reshaped in the process? Emily's restless energy shifted into silent contemplation as she took a deep breath, absorbing the gravity of Leo's words. The tension of the moment sharpened her senses, revealing hidden layers of fear and hope intertwined in her heart. She felt the weight of expectation, both from inside herself and from Leo, and it filled her with a mix of anxiety and determination. Okay, she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. If we're going to do this, I need to plan. I can't just spill everything out without having a structure in place. Leo nodded, a surge of relief coursing through him. She wasn't retreating. She was stepping forward with caution, and that was the beginning of her transformation. What about starting with your art? Your work has always been a reflection of your journey, he suggested. You could incorporate bits of your personal story into your pieces, framing them within your narrative. Emily considered this, her brow furrowing as an idea took shape. If I can show my struggle through my art, maybe it won't be so daunting, she murmured. People can see the rawness without me having to articulate every detail. That's it, Leo encouraged, feeling the electricity in her tone. Your vulnerability can become your strength. It will resonate with people, maybe even inspire them. With newfound focus, Emily began to sketch out ideas, each line breathing life into her possibilities. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating her pages, almost as if it nudged her toward clarity. But just as the room brightened, a darker thought crept in. What if I share all this and they reject it? She whispered, the fear clawing back at her resolve. What if I fail? Those words pulled at Leo. He recognized her deeper struggle with self-worth, the ghosts of her past hovering like suffocating shadows. Rejection is a possibility, Emily, but it doesn't define who you are. You're more than others' perceptions. You decide your worth, he said firmly. She looked up, vulnerability etched in her expression. But that's hard to internalize. It's so easy for me to feel insignificant. As she spoke, Leo felt a surge of urgency to redirect that spiral of doubt. What if we shifted the narrative? Instead of fearing rejection, we celebrate the courage it takes to share your truth? The flicker of realization sparked in Emily's eyes. I could create a piece titled Courage in the Unknown, she suggested, her creativity igniting. I could visually express the fear and the strength that comes with vulnerability. Yes, Leo exclaimed, emboldened by her enthusiasm. And through that, you'll invite conversations, connections, and even support. But as they mapped out the concept, Leo knew this was just the beginning. The looming presentation was just days away, and he feared that time might not be on their side. Emily would need to confront not only her fears of exposure, but also the looming judgment of others that she dreaded. As they collaborated, Emily found her voice. The sketches evolved into vibrant expressions, and each stroke of her brush released a fragment of her identity, slowly reclaiming what she had almost lost. Yet doubt lingered like an unwelcome guest. She couldn't shake the oppressive weight of her mother's past, believing it could cloud her vision and stifle her ambition. Leo sensed that the pivotal moment was approaching as emotions churned in Emily's heart. Would she embrace this opportunity to redefine herself, or would the shadows of her past prevent her from achieving her full potential? Her determination solidified, but the fear of being buried by the weight of expectations remained. What would happen when she confronted both her art and her history head-on? As they delved deeper into the process, the question lingered. What hidden truths might surface among the colors and canvases as Emily navigated this new terrain? Would the act of creation bring her healing, or would it expose her vulnerabilities in a way she couldn't handle? The road ahead loomed uncertain, but one thing was clear: her journey was only just beginning. Emily awoke the next morning, a cascade of thoughts spiraling through her mind. The sun's rays filtered through her curtains, casting soft squares of light onto her canvas. The title, Courage in the Unknown, lingered in the air, a mantra that both excited and frightened her. It challenged her to dig deep into her memories and find the nerve to put them on display, all while the ever-watchful specter of fear loomed over her. She took a moment to sit in silence, her sketchbook resting beside her like a potential treasure map leading to uncharted territory. How could she encapsulate her journey? There was a profound complexity in unveiling layers of herself that had long been buried beneath years of self-doubt and societal expectation. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, Emily picked up her pencil, the tip of it touching the paper lightly, an act both fragile and electrifying. The first stroke felt almost sacrilegious, the blank space so pristine and welcoming. This piece had to transcend mere aesthetics. It needed to pulsate with the essence of her truth. She breathed deeply, her heart racing with the prospect of emotional revelation. The imagery began to flow. She decided to portray herself at the intersection of fear and hope, a delicate balancing act. Shadows curled around her smaller form, representing the expectations she felt pressing down on her from every direction. Yet, in the center, there was a bright circle breaking through, signifying her emerging strength. As the vision unfolded, a realization caught her breath. She could use her brush to create not only a piece of art, but a declaration of who she was and who she yearned to become. But moments later, a crippling realization halted her hand mid-stroke. What if she could create this masterpiece, but falter at the moment of exhibition? The fear of vulnerability threatened to spill from the ink and colors into her very being. Her mother's unresolved struggles flooded back, a voice whispering the echoes of inadequacy, the very same shadows Emily hoped to shift away from in her art. However, there was an inner strength emerging, nurtured by Leo's encouragement and her own relentless drive to break the chains of her past. She had faced challenges before, and every brushstroke was a testament to perseverance. "I am not defined by her," she whispered to herself, granting permission to disengage from the mounting pressure surrounding her. The art wasn't a reflection of her worth, but a narrative filled with complexities. Emily took another breath, steadying herself. She envisioned a larger crowd, not simply strangers viewing her work, but an audience willing to engage, to hear her story. This presentation could lead to conversations assessing vulnerability, understanding, and the courage to express one's truth. Yet, as the thought took root, a new terror arose. What if that audience included people from her past, friends, acquaintances, or even family members? Would they see her as weak or worse, as a traitor for stepping away from the shadows of their expectations? Brushing away the thought like errant paint on her clothes, Emily pushed forward. She would embrace the challenge, the potential discomfort, and transform it into a source of empowerment. Time wound ever tighter like a rubber band stretched nearly to its limit. The date of the presentation drew nearer, her deadline quickly approaching. But instead of panic, there emerged clarity within her creative process. Emily realized that her strongest weapon against doubt was the act of creation itself, the beautiful ritual of revealing parts of herself that she had long neglected or fearfully concealed. As she worked, she felt a flicker of hope igniting within, a spark launching her toward a sense of purpose. Would this be the moment she'd long awaited for, an opportunity to confront not just herself, but the world and its judgments? Suddenly, a louder voice broke through the cacophony in her mind. What if I'm more than my fears? That question resonated deeply, but was she prepared to answer it? An unexpected knock at the door swiftly intruded on her moment of budding confidence, jolting her thoughts. Who could it be? The uncertainty clawed at her. As she moved to answer, the question lingered, echoing through her subconscious. Would this moment solidify her departure from fear, or plunge her deeper into the struggle of reconciliation? Emily opened the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Standing before her was Leo, his expression reflecting a mix of excitement and concern. "Hey, I thought I'd check in on you," he said, stepping inside. His presence brought a wave of comfort, yet the whirlwind of emotions still churned within her. "Thanks for coming, Leo. I've been working on the piece, but I'm battling these thoughts." "What thoughts?" he asked, attempting to gauge the maelstrom behind her eyes. "That I might not be good enough, that revealing my story could open old wounds, not just for myself, but for others too." The admission hung heavily in the air, charged with vulnerability. "Emily, you're not alone in this. You have the power to reshape those narratives, to reclaim your voice." His words were firm, yet gentle, and Emily clung to them like a lifeline. Looking out the window, she saw the world pass by, a reminder of life beyond her walls. "You really believe that? That I can turn the ashes of my experiences into something beautiful?" Leo stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Absolutely. You've already started with your artwork. You're crafting a new story, one that connects your past to the future you envision. Every stroke carries weight, meaning." Determination surged within her at his encouragement. "I need to find the right way to express that connection, to articulate not just the pain, but the strength that emerged from it." "Why not begin by reflecting on your past struggles?" he suggested. "Write down your fears, but also the victories. What did you learn from those moments? How did they transform you?" The thought resonated. Emily had always felt the need to hide the darker corners of her life. But what if embracing them was the key? She looked at her sketchbook, the blank pages waiting. She could feel the energy of unspent words transforming into a tangible release. "I'll try," she said, the spark of resolve igniting within her. "Good. And remember, the creative process is just as important as the end result. Don't rush it. Allow it to unfold." His encouragement settled into Emily's mind, and she inhaled deeply, drawing on this newfound energy. As they spoke, Emily felt herself begin to peel back layers. She scribbled notes as Leo encouraged her to jot down moments of bravery, the choices that had helped her grow. She was abuzz with inspiration, words sparking as she connected her past with her artistic ambitions. But as she wrote, a familiar wave of anxiety crested over her. The looming date of the presentation felt like an approaching storm. What if my courage evaporates on that day? What if I choke on my own narrative? Then you adapt, Leo replied swiftly. You're rewriting your story, Emily. Each sentence and brushstroke is a step towards your truth. Own it, and don't worry about anyone else's reaction. You're doing this for you first. The urgency of his voice grounded her. In this space, with Leo by her side, Emily felt her hesitation slowly dissolving. She was ready to embrace her past. Hours flew by as they bantered over philosophies and techniques. Leo's ideas unfurled like petals around her imagination. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the room in warm hues, she paused. What if I regret unveiling too much? What if it harms my relationships? This is a part of your process, Leo replied quietly. You're not responsible for how others interpret your truth. Focus on your growth, and the rest will follow. A hush settled between them, and Emily let the calm seize her. She picked up her pencil again, determined to create this bridge between fear and hope on the canvas before her. She realized that this journey was more than putting paint to paper. It was about stepping outside her own confines. And yet, as Leo prepared to leave, Emily felt another tremor of doubt. The question lingered. Was she truly ready to confront the potential fallout from those who would witness her unveiling? With narrowed eyes, she voiced her concern. What if I reveal something about myself that even I'm afraid to face? Leo paused in his tracks. Then you've just discovered the next layer of your courage. A shiver of recognition coursed through her. What lay ahead wasn't just an exhibition, but a pilgrimage into herself. As he stepped out, the door clicked shut, and she was left alone once again, with her thoughts and the canvas bearing witness to her evolution. The next layer beckoned her curiosity and fear, intertwining yet again. Would she dare to embrace whatever truths were waiting in the shadows, ready to be unleashed? Emily settled back into her thoughts, the weight of Leo's words hanging heavily in the air. The canvas before her seemed both inviting and daunting, offering a blank space that was ripe for transformation and revelation. Her mind buzzed with possibilities, each flicker of inspiration beckoning her deeper into her own labyrinth of memories and experiences. She picked up her pencil again, the tip poised above the page. Where to begin? A deep breath steadied her. She decided to start with her childhood, those bittersweet moments that shaped her. With each stroke, she let the memories flow, sometimes vividly, at other times fragmented. Colors captured emotions she had long tucked away. The deep blues of sadness, the fiery reds of anger, the gentle greens of hope. The slow progression of the little girl she once was inhabited the lines, an intricate dance of joy and sorrow. Each sketch ignited a new thought, a reflection on how those early experiences had informed the woman she had become. But with this exploration came a familiar knot in her stomach. The honesty of her truths began to feel overwhelming. Was she ready to expose the parts of her life that felt raw and unresolved? The thought haunted her, tracing paths of hesitation along her skin. Suddenly, the looming presentation day burst into her mind like a thundercloud. What if the audience saw her vulnerabilities as weaknesses? What if they judged her, misconstrued her intentions? A shroud of anxiety wrapped around her as she grappled with the enormity of the choice she was making. She put her head in her hands, fighting the tide of panic threatening to pull her under. But it was precisely this unease that stirred something fierce within her, an ember that refused to be extinguished. Rather than allowing fear to paralyze her, she chose to confront it, staring boldly into its depths. With newfound determination, she flipped the page of her sketchbook, reminding herself that her artistry was a powerful conduit for expression. She focused on the lessons learned from her past. Each brushstroke or pencil mark could intertwine her pain and resilience. She could take risks with her narrative, knowing that vulnerability breeds authenticity and perhaps connection. There was strength in sharing her truth. As she transformed her fears into shapes and shadows on the canvas, a voice echoed in her mind. You're not responsible for how others interpret your truth. That reminder instilled a surge of defiance against her insecurities. What would the audience think of her? That question no longer held sway over her. What mattered was how she felt about it herself. Time slipped away, the shadows outside deepening with the fading light, but she pressed on, her heart pounding with purpose. The momentum built inside her like a coiled spring, the sense of imminent discovery palpable. With each piece, she felt herself inching closer to uncovering the layers of her identity, the hidden strengths she had yet to unveil. Finally, with greater resolve than she had started, Emily stood back from her canvas. What was waiting out there, beyond these walls, was uncertain, yet she felt ready. This was her moment to confront more than just her past. It was an opportunity to redefine herself. But as she gathered her sketches, a thought surfaced. Would her courage withstand the scrutiny of others? Encouraged by Leo's earlier words, she pushed the question aside, but the heightened awareness pricked her with urgency. The subtle anticipation of the upcoming presentation loomed over her once more. She took a deep breath. The stage wasn't merely a physical space. It would be a battleground for her voice, for her truths. Tomorrow would be a test of her will and a chance to honor her journey. But the thought of shedding her layers in front of others continued to coil around her heart like a steel clasp. With her pulse racing, she made a mental note. This was just the beginning. What if the act of sharing became a two-way street where others might uncover their own layers in the process? The possibilities danced before her eyes, each one a flicker of potential connection waiting to be embraced. As she switched off the light, the darkened room mirrored both her apprehension and excitement. Would she step into the vivid colors of her story, or would she linger in the shadows of doubt? Tomorrow, she would find out. Would she be brave enough to face what might emerge from the depths? As dawn broke, Emily's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The morning sun crept through her window, casting gentle rays across her scattered sketches, transforming the fraught night into a blank canvas of opportunity. She pushed the lingering shadows of doubt aside, knowing the only way to navigate the day ahead was to confront her fears head-on. Standing in front of her mirror, she practiced her opening lines, her voice wavering as she mouthed the phrases in silence. Would her message resonate? The rehearsed words hung in the air, heavy with unspent emotion. She adjusted her posture, straightening her shoulders, attempting to embody the confidence she sought. As she stared at her reflection, she felt the weight of her vulnerabilities pressing against her will to overcome them. In the kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee soothed her nerves, providing a moment of normalcy. She absent-mindedly traced the rim of her mug, thinking of her childhood, the moments layered together like the colors on her canvas. Each sip ignited memories of her late mother, the woman who had possessed a profound strength that Emily admired but never fully understood. How had she navigated her own fears and uncertainties? The thought made her question her own methods of coping. Was the act of creating art her only haven, or could she draw on her mother's resilience as well? It was a sudden revelation that shocked her out of her reverie. Perhaps she hadn't realized until now how the threads of her lineage intertwined with her own journey. In that moment, she committed not only to share her truth, but also to honor her mother's legacy. Arriving at the venue felt strangely unreal, as if she were watching from a distance rather than participating in her own life. The hum of chatter and laughter created an atmosphere charged with energy and apprehension. Encountering familiar faces brought a swell of comfort. But as Emily scanned the crowd, her heart quickened at the sight of strangers whose expressions were a mix of curiosity and expectation. Just moments before she was scheduled to present, she retreated to a quiet corner, pulling out her sketches. Looking at each piece reminded her of the stories behind them, tales only she could tell. With each stroke, she had diligently recorded the struggle between her past and her desires. It wasn't just about putting her memories on display. It was about weaving them into a narrative that captured a portion of her essence. As her name was called, a mix of fear and exhilaration rushed through her. Summoning the courage she had cultivated, she stepped onto the stage. Immediately, floodlights illuminated her, casting her silhouette in sharp relief against the warm backdrop of the audience. The microphone felt foreign, yet alive in her grip. Taking a deep breath, she began. She shared snippets of her childhood, emulating the tenderness of her memories, while also revealing patches of discomfort. The vibrancy of her art intertwined perfectly with her words, creating a tapestry of emotion that drew everyone into her world. Each story built upon its predecessor, encouraging her to delve deeper into her truth, with the flicker of connection growing stronger in the room. But as she approached her pièce de résistance, a vivid recollection of her mother leaving, her voice faltered momentarily. A tightness seized her throat, and the electricity in the audience shifted palpably. Would they be able to digest the raw reality of her experience? It was in that moment of vulnerability that she felt the echo of Leo's words, urging her to embrace the empathy that could stem from honesty. Rallying her resolve, she pressed on. The words tumbled forth unabashedly, painting a delicate picture balanced on the edge of grief and strength. As she spoke of her mother, Emily uncovered a glimmer of clarity within herself. The act of sharing became transformational, not just for the listeners, but for her as well. By the time she concluded, a profound silence enveloped the room, broken only by soft murmurs mixed with admiration and compassion. Emily stepped back, absorbing the weight of her revelation, a moment that bridged her past with her present. She had stepped into the light, shedding the fears that had once defined her. Yet, as she scanned the expressions of the audience, a new tremor coursed through her. Amongst the sea of faces, one familiar figure lingered, distant yet insistent. A connection sparked a realization that her journey had just begun. Tomorrow, she would face the consequences of her unveiling and the new questions that loomed on the horizon. What truth remained undiscovered, and would she be ready to face it head-on? Days turned into weeks after the presentation, and Emily felt the weight of her own truth transform into something liberating. The initial rush of anxiety accompanying her vulnerability had faded, replaced by a newfound confidence that surged through her veins. The audience's response had been overwhelmingly positive. Strangers were reaching out, expressing how her words and artwork ignited a spark within them, inviting glimpses of their own hidden struggles to surface. Emily had never anticipated that sharing her experiences would not only serve as her liberation, but also resonate deeply with others. Word spread around town about her art and her story, her mother's truth and her journey of overcoming doubt and fear. Emily received invitations to collaborate, including the opportunity to feature her work in a local gallery. Finally, she felt seen and recognized for more than just the girl in a wheelchair. She had proven to them, and more importantly to herself, that she was a storyteller, a visionary, and a creator. Leo stood beside her throughout this transformative phase, offering both encouragement and steady guidance. He had emerged as not just her caretaker, but an instrumental ally in her quest for self-discovery. They conducted workshops together at the gallery, sharing their experiences with others. Each session deepened their bond, allowing Leo to relinquish his doubts, for once feeling proud of guiding not just Emily, but himself toward an authentic life. Emily, this journey has allowed us both to confront our hidden fears, Leo said one evening as they prepared for their next workshop. His eyes carried a mixture of pride and admiration. Of course, we dared to dive into the unknown, she replied, her voice imbued with the vigor of someone who had tackled their insecurities head-on. It feels incredible to finally let our stories breathe. Soon after, the art exhibit opened, showcasing not only Emily's work, but also a collaborative piece that represented her family's journey. Visitors flocked to the gallery, drawn in by both the creativity displayed and the emotional depth that spilled from the pieces. That evening, as she observed the guardians of the past and the pioneering spirits of the present converge in admiration for her work, a sense of pride filled Emily. They had all shared a dialogue woven through stories, each person reflecting layers of vulnerability and strength. She could feel her heart swell with pride. She had accomplished what she once thought impossible. "Leo, look at this!" she exclaimed as she gestured toward a couple closely studying her piece. "They're connecting to the themes of strength and resilience. It's incredible." Leo smiled, sensing her satisfaction. "You've built something truly meaningful here, Emily. This is your legacy." That word, legacy, struck Emily deeply. She realized she had not only created art, but a platform for others to share their stories, thus igniting collective healing. The shadows of her mother's absence no longer weighed her down. Instead, each stroke on her canvas had transformed her pain into empowerment. Weeks layered upon weeks, and soon her determination solidified into an unshakable conviction. Emily decided to establish a mentorship program where young artists like herself could share their narratives through art. She wanted to foster an environment of safety, conversation, and expression, one where every participant could conquer their demons without the burden of judgment. "Launching this program feels like the closing of a chapter and the exhilarating start of another," she confided to Leo as they drafted proposals together. "You're paving the path for others, Emily," he replied, admiration flooding his tone. "This is your moment. You're proving that our truths can unite and uplift." The opening event for the mentorship program was a success, launching not only a network of storytellers, but also a profound sense of camaraderie in their shared experiences. Emily had formed a community, binding individuals through the acknowledgement of their pasts. She had transformed their struggles into a beacon of hope. As Emily continued her artistic journey, she reflected on the tremendous growth she had experienced. Looking back to the anxious girl who once hesitated to share her thoughts, she recognized her evolution toward a leader, an artist, and an inspiration. She had faced adversity and used it as a catalyst to propel her forward. Feeling a sense of fulfillment, Emily looked ahead, excited for what the future held. The whispers of the past no longer echoed hauntingly in her ears, but served as gentle reminders of how far she had come, with love and support entwined in her journey. Finally standing tall at a point of self-acceptance, she embraced her multifaceted identity. Every aspect of who she was, the girl in a wheelchair, the granddaughter, the artist, the mentor, now intertwined harmoniously. Emily had succeeded in reclaiming her narrative while opening the doors for others to join her on this extraordinary voyage. With renewed purpose, she smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. Now is the time to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. You need to subscribe now and not wait, even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.